Our next speaker is Magnus Bordewich, who's going to talk on optimizing phylogenetic diversity across two trees.
Thanks. So this talk is about one of the problems that Mike Steele mentioned in the conference that started the whole program as one of the challenges and conjectures. So it's one we managed to solve, and having enjoyed the bottle of wine, we thought perhaps the duty would be to report on it. So hopefully you won't spot any mistakes because the wine has gone. It was to do with phylogenetic diversity. So this is the problem of finding a subset of the taxa of some fixed size that maximizes the phylogenetic diversity. And here the phylogenetic diversity of a subset is the sum of the edge lengths that connect the taxa you're interested in. So here, if we look at A, B, and F, the sum of the edge lengths just connecting those three taxa is 12. So that's the PD score of that subset. And the motivation for this sort of problem is that you may be interested in conserving a diverse set of taxa, but don't have resources to conserve everything. And this would be one method of choosing a suitable set of taxa. You wouldn't want to conserve 3 types of kiwi at the expense of all other creatures. You might be interested in something else. Another possible interest for this would be if you had limited resources to, say, sequence different taxa, and you wanted to choose a set that gave you some interesting differences. You wouldn't want to sequence 3 types of rat and discover actually that they're all very much the same. You'd want to sequence some different types of different taxa. So that's another possible use of this. So that's all very good, and it's been observed that this is solvable by a greedy algorithm. So essentially you simply pick 2 taxa that are, I'll stick to the button. You pick 2 taxa that is as far apart as possible initially. So here you might pick B and D, and then to increase your set up to whatever your limit is, you simply consider adding a taxa which is furthest from your current set. So here, these 2 are both 3 from however much you've got so far. So you use one of those to add into your set, and you repeat this process very fast, and gives you an optimal set of k taxa, obviously if you stop when you reach k. So that's nice, but the problem is we don't always know the true tree. It could be that different people using different methods or perhaps different data sets have got different proposed trees, or it could be that using the same stuff but different genes, you've produced different gene trees. So given more than one tree on the same set of taxa, how are you going to approach this problem? Well, the proposed solution is to give weights to each tree, either based upon how confident you are in it, or perhaps what proportion of the genes evolve along that tree or something like that, and then compute a set that maximizes the weighted average PD across those trees. So writing that in sort of gobbledygook, we've got these lambdas and a set of T trees, and we're still interested in K, and that's that. So WAPD, weighted average PD, is how we describe this. WAPD1 is just the problem on one tree, and the greedy method, as I described, solves that. For t greater than or equal to 3, it's NP hard. This was mentioned by Spilner et al., but I'll give you a simple proof in a minute. And the open question, which was what Mike asked, is if you just have 2 trees, clearly it is the sort of gap between 1 and at least 3, is this possible or not? And that's what I'll get on to. So first of all, for greater than or equal to 3, trying to show this is hard, so we start with a problem that we know is hard, and we convert that into a 3-tree problem, and show that if we could solve the 3-tree problem, then we could also solve this known to be hard problem, so we must not be able to do it. So the problem we start with is vertex cover on, a cubic planar graph, which is hard, and a vertex cover is a set of vertices from the graph such that every edge, one of its endpoints, is in the set. And you're looking for a minimum set of vertices that achieves this. So we start with a graph, and we want to convert it into 3 trees. So we're going to color the edges with 3 colors. I'm not sure if you can see the difference between the blue and the black there. We color the edges with 3 colors, and that's why we took a cubic planar graph, so that each vertex has got 3 different colored edges adjacent to it. Then we produce 3 trees, one from the blue edges, one from the red edges, and one from the black edges. So if you look at the blue tree, then each cherry corresponds to one of the blue edges in the graph. So AE is a cherry, and AE is a blue edge in the graph. And then the red tree and the black tree are formed likewise. And if we pick some specific k, then the graph has a vertex cover of size k, if and only if the optimal solution to WAPD3 on these, where all the lambdas and edge lengths are set to 1, these 3 trees, is 3k plus the number of edges in G. So that works because if you have a vertex cover, then you must have one endpoint of every edge in. So you must have either A or E in. So you have something from this cherry, and you must have A or B in, so you have something from this cherry. So in each tree, you've got something from every cherry. And so the PD score is going to include, well, there's a small condition that you need at least 3, so you don't have just a cherry. You've got something elsewhere. So the PD score is going to include this internal edge. And so you've got all the internal edges of all the trees, plus 1 going to each of the k taxa. So the internal edges are in 1-to-1 correspondence with the edges here. That gives you the E. And the ones going to the taxa, well, that happens once in each tree. So that gives you the 3k. And the vertex covers and the PD score coincide. So there we are. That one's hard. So back to the open problem then. We've got 2 trees and an integer k. We're going to convert the 2 trees into a network with capacities and costs and solve a minimum cost flow problem. So we're essentially going to create a network where the edges are thought of as pipes, and the pipes have only got a certain diameter, so you can't send more than so much through them, and you have to pay a fee per unit of water that you send along the pipe. And we're going to show that the minimum cost flow problem on the network is the same as the PD problem on the 2 trees, and minimum cost flow problems are old, well-studied problems that can be solved fairly efficiently. In fact, I suspect the case we've got is simpler than a totally general minimum cost flow problem, so might be able to do faster, but we haven't looked at that. So I'll start with the rooted case. We have the 2 trees, and we draw them leaf to leaf, and then connect up the taxa, so G to G and F to F, etc., on the 2 trees. Then we put a source and a sink. S is the source on the left, and T is the sink. So we're going to route the flow from S to T, and all the pipes are going to be pointing from left to right. And we're going to add some extra pipes just sort of from the root to the internal nodes from each of the original trees. That's just to It gives a bit of extra capacity. So the new pipes have all got capacity K and cost 0. So essentially they let us send whatever we want to the internal nodes. And the old pipes, the black edges, have got capacity 1 and cost, well, it's minus lambda I Li. So it's essentially minus the PD score of that edge. It's only minus because minimum cost flow problems seem to be the standard everywhere, and you can have negative costs, that's fine. So that's the deal. Now we push a flow of K units from S to T through this network, and that essentially is going to pick out K of the taxa. So if you imagine we push 3 units of flow from left to right, then there is something about the fact that we're going to have an integer flow rather than splitting up little bits of dribbly water through all the pipes, but that is fine. So we've got 3 units coming across the middle here, and that essentially picks out 3 taxa. So here, the pipe connecting the 2 F's has got some flow, so that's picked out, and E's picked out, and B's picked out. So a flow of K unit picks out K taxa, and then the minimum cost, if you assume we've got these 3 taxa, is minus the PD score of the first tree minus the PD score of the second tree. So I've left off the Landry stuff, but it works out. And that works because clearly you pick up the PD score from each of this edge, from each of the taxas you've chosen. Then where you've only got one flow coming along an internal edge here, since this black edge is cheaper, it's got a negative cost rather than a 0 cost, you'll use it. And where you have more than one unit of flow across an internal edge, again, you fill up the black edge, which is cheap first, and then you shove the rest through the sort of cost 0 high capacity red edge. So we've got K units of flow, goes across here, and the PD score works out. And so the minimum cost flow over the whole network is going to be the minimum, is going to correspond, well, to minus the maximum PD. And the only thing you have to check is that you get an integer solution, which you do. So that's again, a very old result in network flows. That's fine. So the unrooted case essentially works by guessing one of the taxa in the optimal set and using that as the root. And, well, you can keep guessing until you've checked all of them, and then you're fine. There's a sort of minor adjustment where you have to pop an extra edge out from the source and the sink here. So X was the taxa we guessed was going to be in the solution. But otherwise, it works out fine, but obviously takes a little bit longer to solve since you have this guessing bit in there. So, well, that solved the question originally asked, asked by Mike, not originally, it had been raised before. So where do we go after that? The problem on multiple trees in complexity terms is sorted out. Obviously, there could be some approximation or other approaches to that. But in terms of complexity, you have to move away from multiple trees to more general split systems. Some work's been done on this already. Min et al. Did circular split systems, and Spilner et al. Had a polynomial algorithm for affine split systems, but there are other sort of... so the 3-tree result, I should mention, means that general split systems are hard. But there are other classes of split system that you could consider, perhaps weakly compatible or something like that, see if you can get any progress there. Or you could get away from the basic PD problem, and there's been plenty of work, as we heard at the first conference, in lots of different directions involving different, more realistic scenarios than simply buying a fixed number of taxa at unit cost. So survival probabilities, budgets, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of work on that, which I can't mention all of it, but there's also lots of open problems there as well. Thanks very much.
Any questions for Megan? Andy?
So this seems like a really natural kind of problem to think about approximation algorithms. So like, K is fixed, but you're not concerned about an exact solution, then you'd be happy with a reasonably good approximation.
Yeah, so I mean that's that is the case. So nature reserves, for example, is difficult to do exactly. In fact, it's NP hard to approximate better than 1/E ratio, I think. But you can approximate within that ratio, so the result with Charles. So there's some work along those lines, but for the multiple tree problem, I don't know of anything that's been done on that yet.
Third question. Nick?
A list.
Ooh.
No, but they're all okay. So I'd like to congratulate you on solving a problem and remembering to pose another problem to take its place. That's not a question.
But are you giving a bottle of wine?
Yeah. Yeah, when's the show still up? So if I understood that the extension that you gave briefly to make the rooted case work is then like n cubed log squared n or something, because you, at worst, you take every...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Why is it all right with integers? I believe you. Can you give me 2 sentences that make me understand vaguely?
If you pick up a dusty book,
No, that's not.
that
You should tell me.
it's because all the capacities involved are integers.
Mm-hmm.
The optimal solution will also be integral. It's possible that you could have more than one solution, and you can have a linear combination of 2 integer solutions, which isn't integer, but it's very, that isn't an issue.
Any questions?
Maybe the matrix is totally modular.
Maybe. Well, if there's a long list, we can break, or you can fire right here.
I effectively want. So your method to solve for 2 trees effectively also, it is a solution for 1 if you make one of them the star tree or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, can you, other than the fact that I understand it can't possibly work, why can't you somehow cleverly generalize the 2 tree solution to be the 3 or 4? So I understand the strength of the results, but
yeah. So you might think maybe you can glue 3 trees
Yeah.
together across the taxa, and then maybe have 1 source and 2 sinks or something like this. But
unique paths is the problem. You haven't got unique paths down to, so if you've got the source and the sink, you've got a unique path down to this guy, then a unique path from this guy to the sink.
yeah.
So when you glue 3 trees, which way are you going to
These
go?
guys are the nodes that actually
Yeah, so
represent
two of them
the
each you want to be sources. So now you've got 2 ways to get down to the.
Because you have a split.
So you've got this uniqueness problem that you don't have.
Maybe another possibility is that the matrix is not anymore totally unimodular, so the problem may be not anymore easy. So this could be another possibility.
Any questions? Let's thank Magnus again. That concludes this session. The next session begins